Assalamu alaikum and welcome back to Desi Powerhub. If you're new here, we talk about productivity, general life skills, and tips on how to improve yourselves. If you're returning, welcome back. And today we have a pretty interesting episode, something that varies for every single person, and that is, do we sleep enough? Do we really need 8 hours of sleep? I'm going to be covering a few papers with my own experiences, a very nice book on sleep, and also about naps in Islam and how maybe we're taking naps the wrong way. So definitely stay tuned if any of this seems interesting to you. So as a kid, as soon as it would get like close to 9 p.m. or 10 p.m., my eyes would start drooping. I would start feeling sleepy, and wherever I was, I would just fall asleep. And this had stayed consistent throughout to today. So even now, I sleep around 10, 11, and maybe I could call myself a naturally morning person. But what started happening recently was I was a bit frustrated with how much stuff I had to do during the day, and I was like, you know what? I will counter that by still getting up early, but at night when I want to chill, I can just stay up late. And everybody says 6 hours or 5 hours is enough for them. So let me try sleeping 6 hours. And I did that for like a month or two. And believe me, initially I was pretty happy because I could be working pretty hard. I was waking up in the morning. My schedule was really good. It was working well. And at night, I could watch some movies or pursue personal hobbies and still sleep. But I had like these few extra 2 to 3 hours that I didn't have before, and that really freed up some space and I was feeling a lot happier. But what ended up happening was I started noticing that I had more brain fog. I couldn't think as clearly, my reflexes weren't as fast. I would feel like a very tiny sort of exhaustion throughout the day which wouldn't go away. And I'm not someone who takes caffeine, so naturally I can't like artificially remove that feeling. So I did realize all of this, and it got to the point where I was like, is a few extra hours of entertainment even worth it? I'm like losing out on sleep, and then I'm like, my mind's hazy during the day, and then I can't think clearly. I do stuff slower, and I just felt like my intelligence was deteriorating. Like, I couldn't think on the spot, I couldn't make good decisions. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so frustrated with this. And as soon as I started realizing that, I started going back to my 8 hours of sleep. And almost like within a week, I started noticing that brain fog started to go away. I felt a lot more clear headed. I was able to make like instant decisions or like think clearly quickly. And because I was now noticing things at a deeper level, I noticed that any day that I had like 6 hours of sleep, even though it's not super noticeable to someone who always gets 6 hours of sleep, there is still like a tiny amount of brain fog that's there. Also, just as a pro tip, they say that every hour before 12 is like 3 hours worth of sleep after 12. So definitely it's important to get 8 hours of sleep, but it's also important to get it in the right time frame. Like, you shouldn't be getting 8 hours of sleep starting like 3 a.m. in the morning and just sleeping throughout the day. You really need to move with the sun because that's how humans are made. Like, there might be morning people and night owls. Like, that's a huge concept these days. But I honestly believe that after an entire day, your brain is tired, you are physically tired, and at that time at night, you really can't think as clearly. For some people, this may differ, like if they have kids or if they're really busy during the day, or maybe they have opportunities to rest during the day, but the only distraction free time they can get is during the night. For them, it may be beneficial. But if you can, definitely try to go towards being more of a morning person, because that's when your mind is at its peak. It's fresh. It just had like 8 hours of sleep. So that's when you can get the most productive amount of work done. So my next question here was, do we really need 8 hours of sleep? Because I've met so many people who have like argued with me day and night. Like, they're like, I know what the research says. I know it's done to like 1,000 people, but I know my body. I know that I'm good with 5, 6, 7, or I've met people who say I'm good with 4 hours of sleep. That's the amount of sleep that I need. And apparently, you only need 2 hours to basically just survive. And that's true, right? But that doesn't mean you take it to the extreme and actually start sleeping near 2 hours or like 4 hours. It doesn't work that way. For a healthy, functioning brain, like research shows that you need at least 7 hours or more of sleep. So the first thing I was curious about was, what are the effects of maybe you can cut 1 hour here and there and maybe catch up on it later on. Well, there's a really good book on this, and if you're interested, I'll maybe leave a link down below, or you should just search. It's called Why We Sleep by Matthew Walker. And he found a very interesting example where he studied daylight saving time. So if someone's not familiar with it, it's when they move the time by an hour, I believe in the winter. So they just move an hour forward, and when it comes back to the summer, they move an hour back. Honestly, I don't get it. They should either move an hour back throughout the entire year or not touch it at all, because it messes with a lot of people's sleep cycle. So he observed the link between that and heart attacks, and he mentioned in his book, in the northern hemisphere, the switch to daylight saving times in March results in most people losing about an hour of sleep opportunity. And should you tabulate millions of daily hospital records, as researchers have done, you discover that the seemingly trivial sleep reduction comes with a frightening spike in heart attacks the following day. Impressively, this works both ways. Within the northern hemisphere, the clock moves forward and we gain an hour of sleep opportunity time, and rates of heart attacks plummet the day after. Like, this is insane. So a similar rise and fall relationship can be seen with the number of traffic accidents, proving that the brain, by way of attention and lapses and microsleeps, is just as sensitive as the heart to very small changes in sleep. Most people think nothing of losing an hour of sleep for a single night, believing it to be trivial and inconsequential, but it is anything but. And this really made me realize the importance of it, because even 1 hour caused like this huge difference. And that's just insane to me. And we often overlook this maybe if you have to like hang out with friends or family, or you're watching an interesting season, or I don't know, you just have an extra chore that you need to complete. We could like overlook that hour, but it's actually making such a big difference. Which brings us to the second point, like what if you sleep for, I don't know, 6 hours one day, but you're trying to get more sleep, so you sleep 8 hours the next day, or maybe 10 hours the next day to catch up or make up for it. And a lot of people do that, like they stay up or they have irregular sleep hours during the week, and then during the weekend they sleep 8 hours. And I found a very interesting study for that, and honestly, I really loved reading through it. So, can you catch up on sleep? That is the question. And I found a study which used 52 healthy young adults, and they measured their time in bed, which is TIB, and they divided the group into 3 parts. So one of them had stable short sleep group, which means that they had short sleep, but it was stable throughout the week. So they slept 6 hours consistently all 5 days of the week. And the control slept 8 hours every single day. And the variable short sleep group slept maybe 8 hours on Monday, 4 hours on Tuesday, and maybe on Wednesday they slept 8 hours, and after that they slept 4 hours and then 6 hours. So like inconsistent, but they're still like sleeping short amounts of time compared to the control. But like the only different thing was that all groups had 8 hours of sleep during the weekends, like making up for it. And what they found was pretty interesting to me. Apparently, the variable short sleep schedules with sufficient recovery sleep actually reduce the compounding effects on reduced alertness and different things that come from sleep restriction. So it was very interesting to me, because if they are sleeping like short hours consistently versus if they're sleeping variable short hours, so like making up for it on some days of the week, they can reduce the negative effects like reduced alertness by doing that. But overall, they found that the processing speed and subjective sleepiness decreased in both short sleep schedules and variable short sleep schedules when compared to the control. So overall, through the groups they decided that you need at least 8 hours of sleep on a regular basis to have increased alertness and avoid the negative effects that come with not sleeping enough. And if you're interested in this paper, I'll definitely link it down below. but I found it interesting, and there will be a lot of other studies. So do your own research, go to Google Scholar, just type sleep and sleep schedules or whatever you're interested in, and a lot of interesting papers will show up. But this paper was from 2024, so it's a pretty recent paper. And you need to also know that sleep varies according to age, right? So maybe an infant needs 12 to 16 hours of sleep, but when you're a teenager, you might need 8 to 10 hours of sleep. It's only specific for adults that you need 7 hours or more. But kids who are younger than that should definitely be getting more sleep. And I know a lot of people are like, you don't need 8 hours of sleep. Or even if you do, I sleep 6 hours or 5 hours during the night. And after that, I just do the kelula or the siesta, whatever you call it in your country. But in Islam, you have this kelula where you technically sleep or like short naps during the day to like supercharge your energy and like feel more fresh. And I researched on this, and feel free to do the same. And apparently in Islam, the kelula is between 10 a.m. to noon, technically before Zuhr, and it's a short nap that's below 30 minutes. And I feel like we miss the point of that because we might be sleeping after lunch or 2 to 3 or 4 to 6, and we end up ruining how smooth our actual sleep is going to be at night because of these short, well, they're not short, these longer kelulas. You can't even call them that because they're longer, right? And that's like an ingrained part of our culture, especially in hotter countries. You want to be sleeping during the day so you can wake up during the night. And there are benefits, you improve individuals' physical condition and health by sleeping more, and you can counteract sleep debt. But there's actually a surprising amount of negatives, which are like napping is also linked to an increased risk of mortality, cardiovascular disease, diabetes, dementia, and cancer. Honestly, when I was reading through this paper, I was pretty shocked because I didn't expect that. So the next paper that I'm bringing to you is a meta-analysis. And if you're not sure what a meta-analysis is, it just, if there's a lot of studies and they're all saying one or like a few more things, you want to know what the accumulative decision of maybe 50, 70 studies are. And so that's what a meta-analysis is. This paper took 44 cohort studies with around 2 million participants and 1 million nappers. That is a term, I guess. And they got the cumulative results of all 44 of those studies and gave us a conclusion. And, reading through this paper, I'm going to share their details with you. And honestly, it was interesting. I did not expect that because my mother also sleeps like maybe 1 or 2 hours. And sometimes I tell her it backfires, but I never really knew if it really does. And this paper proved it. They mentioned that habitual daytime napping that has a duration for over 30 minutes actually increases the risk of all-cause mortality, cardiovascular diseases, and metabolic disease, but those napping like less than 30 minutes had no significant risk, which is insane. I mean, Islam tells you that, right? And it also ruins your sleep quality at times, obviously. And daytime napping did have protective effects on several health outcomes, but only if it's less than 30 minutes. So it improved your circadian rhythm, you offset sleep deprivation, it restored immune function, it protected against neurodegeneration, and improved physical performance. But the catch is it's below 30 minutes. And if we add to it what Islam tells us, it should be from 10 a.m. to around Zohar time. It should not be after Asr, and you should not be sleeping more than 30 minutes. That only has negative effects on your actual sleep at night. And you can't these naps are not a good exchange for your actual sleep at night. It doesn't work like that. Maybe if you're sleeping 7 hours, you can add kelulas to it and improve your sleep quality. But you cannot be sleeping 5 hours and then adding 5 kelulas that are each 40 minutes and then expect to see benefits. That's just doing you more harm than good. So if you're struggling with this, maybe I can make another episode on this, but just some quick tips, run you through them. One is reduce screen time before bed. I find that hard to do, but the blue light literally kills your sleep. And maintain consistency in when you sleep and wake up so that the melatonin kicks in naturally and your brain knows when you want to sleep, when you want to wake up. And alhamdulillah, I've been pretty consistent in my sleep, so alhamdulillah, I can sleep pretty well. Like if you watch the cartoon Doraemon, there's a character called Nobita who, like, as soon as he hits the bed, he's gone. He's like knocked out cold. That's with me. And a few times where I couldn't sleep, it was so frustrating. So I mean, I have all the sympathies for people who have like can't sleep or have insomnia, but it's like consistency really helps, because when it gets close to like sunset, try to dim your lights, try to avoid screen time, and your body starts naturally recognizing, okay, the sun's down, that means it's time for me to go to sleep too. And eat 3 hours before like you sleep. And sometimes this is also countering, like, this is also pretty different in different households, but in my household, you eat and then in an hour and a half you like fall asleep. So eat 3 hours before you sleep minimum. And another important point is, because we have a chai or like a tea culture in the evening where the entire family gets together, drinks tea, eats some biscuits, well, don't do that. I'm someone who doesn't take caffeine, so any effects of caffeine are actually pretty visible on me than it would be on a regular person. So this is a funny story, but I became a fan of Earl Grey tea. Well, Earl Grey milk tea, and I add ice to it, and I started drinking it with my dinner, right? And I was like, oh my gosh, this is so good. And I started drinking it every single day for a week. And I was like, why can't I fall asleep? I mean, so the only cue for me to fall asleep is when I start feeling sleepy, right? If I don't check the time. And so whenever I would check the time, it's like 1 a.m. And I was like, what is happening? How am I not feeling sleepy anymore? I don't even realize it's this late. And turns out it was the tea. I don't know why it wasn't obvious to me, but it wasn't. And it was the tea. As soon as I stopped drinking the tea, I was getting back to my normal sleep schedule. So don't take any caffeinated drinks after Asr. If you still want to follow that trend, maybe chamomile tea or green tea or something that's not caffeinated might be helpful, because warm drinks do help with sleep, but just not caffeinated drinks. That's like counterintuitive. So conclusively, that's all I have for today, and I hope you had a lot of fun listening to those papers, because I definitely had fun reading them. That's not the geeky side of me talking. It was just genuinely fun to explore this topic, because I am interested in sleep and how it affects your productivity, and it was cool to see actual proof. So conclusively, sleeping over 7 hours is critical for adults. Younger people may need more sleep. Short naps should be before Zuhr and less than 30 minutes. If you're hitting 30 minutes or more, you're actually doing more harm than good, and you cannot catch up on sleep in a day. You need to sleep 8 hours consistently. You cannot just bunch sleep in the weekend. You will still suffer from reduced alertness, sleep deprivation, and being slow mentally. In your reactions, in your thought processing. So that's it for today, and I hope you enjoyed listening. Definitely, like and subscribe and give me more ideas so I can make more topics about similar to this. But it was definitely an interesting episode. I hope you liked it, and thank you so much, and assalamu alaikum. Have an amazing rest of your week.